And good evening and welcome to City Focus. I'm Marty Olsen, your host, and I'm absolutely delighted this evening to have a brand new guest. And it's a gentleman who I've been listening to as he's been a guest on Lee Elsey's program for years and years and years. Yeah. And we've had a chance to chat on Crossover.
Yes.
I'm on Lee's program every month or so, and Dr. Foley is in from 7 to 7:30, and I'm in from 6:30 to 7, and we generally talk off air. So we've had a chance to schmooze a little bit, get to know each other.
Exactly. It's always a, hey, Marty, and you know, I'll listen for a voice, and there you'll be. So yeah, we have our moments.
And I've always enjoyed that, and I listen to you when you're on the air as I'm driving back from Ledyard back to New London. And I always find your segment informative and thought-provoking, and I enjoy it. And I think Lee does a nice job too with the questioning. But Doc Foley is retired now, and he's looking to get into a new endeavor.
Yes.
Some people might question it, but that's what I was looking for. It was a smile and a little chuckle here.
Absolutely.
And that is, he's looking to get involved with politics. And I know you've talked over time, not just medical stuff on Lee's program, but you also opinionate on the issues of the day, whether they're local or perhaps
never short of an opinion, Marty. Never short.
Well, and I've only met Doc once before tonight, and that was when Lee had a fundraiser at one of the casinos. I forget which one. A bowling thing there to raise money, and I had a chance to say hello to you, and we chatted for a few minutes. I don't know if you remember, but I remember.
I do, and I'm a terrible bowler, so I remember that night very, very well. But those were fun times. I thought you were going to talk about, he used to do birthday parties each year at the casino.
Yeah, well, I've been to those.
Yeah, and I'm a drummer. I used to be a professional a million years ago. And so we'd put together a group and we'd play at the party, and that was always the highlight of my year, was to get out and play.
Those were fun. I missed those.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has any plans to get those back up and running or not.
They're a lot of work. They are a tremendous amount of work. It's sort of like planning a wedding, you know, with the guest list and the food and the entertainment and to have a job. And he certainly has a busy job. I think
I think Lee worked full time. I mean, he's unreal.
Yeah, I think I've been with him. We were talking off air. I think probably a good 25 years, and you know, we now are just very good friends. Both he and his wife, Marie, my wife, and I. He's just genuinely one of the nicest people, really smart, and I think if I win this election, it's on him, because no matter where I walk, people are like, Doc Foley, you know, and they recognize my voice, which I never thought was that distinctive, but obviously it is. So I said, and people are generally nice, so obviously they're not disliking me too much. So I said to him, he's my best campaign manager. He just needs to get me on the show.
Well, it's a big help. I mean, you're on his program though. You're talking to kind of a hometown audience.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that he's getting a big audience coming from the left, but
right. Although he tries, boy, but they don't want to be questioned. I mean, the left in general, if you start to talk to them and ask them questions, they have no facts, right? So they get frustrated and angry, and then they start calling you names, and then the conversation's over. So it's hard to have a 20-minute segment when a person's capacity to not lose their mind is 10 minutes. But you know, he loves having liberals on the show.
Oh, he'll have anybody on the program.
Yeah.
I mean, what I have advised local Republicans, I mean, Lee's not going to call you.
Right.
I mean, if you would like to be on his program, you have to reach out. And generally speaking, he makes an effort to find time for you.
And he's fair. It's not, Like we talked. This isn't a gotcha show. You'll ask tough questions. I'm running for office. You need to be able to answer tough questions. But there are ways of being fair to people, and he is just ultimately, even with people he totally disagrees with, he gives them a fair opportunity for them to be successful. It's up to them then. It's not up to him.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into the nitty gritty, you're a man of medicine,
Yeah.
and as I was reviewing your background material, I mean, you're a cardiologist, is that correct? And recently retired. And have you always been in Southeastern Connecticut?
So we'll do a little bit of the, grew up in a log cabin. So just to sort of see where I came from, right? So I was born and raised in Worcester, Massachusetts. My mother was a nurse, although she was a stay-at-home mom.
Same thing with my mom. My mom was an RN. She went to Lenox Hill.
And she was, and she loved it, and so I was in a household where medicine was, talked about, and I always wanted to be a doctor, always wanted to be a neurosurgeon. That was my thing, and so over the years, however, when I look back, my dad was a fireman. He was a professional fireman, and he always worked 3 jobs, sometimes 4, because not the firemen are overpaid, because they're not. But back in those days, they actually could have qualified for food stamps, and the way their schedules were, they all had jobs on the off times.
Yes.
And they bartered, and I'll do this and you do that. So I grew up, I'm not saying poor, but we were pretty close to it. And so I went to nursing school, figuring that I could earn some money and be able to pay for my medical education. And so that's what I did. And I worked as a nurse for about 4 years, and then went to medical school. Realized medical school was a lot more expensive than I thought. So I ran out of money and went into loans, which is a whole nother show. And I got out and I did my residency in Worcester, medicine, and then cardiology for fellow. And then when I moved to Connecticut, which was around 1999, I was in a private practice in Norwich, primarily was at Bacchus Hospital, and I still to this day, it's one of my favorite hospitals is Bacchus. It's where I started. I learned much of what I know about medicine from that hospital.
Is it still independent, or is it?
No, it's part of Hartford Healthcare. And that's a little bit of my journey, right? So when I was there, I'm a heart failure transplant person. So you really kind of need to be at a tertiary care hospital. So I was hired part-time to be on the faculty at Yale. And so I worked in the heart failure and transplant program there for a long, long time. Went through several chairmen, and it was great. And at that time, Hartford was reaching out to Bacchus to bring them in as part of their system. And so there was a lot of discussion, and some people liked the idea, some people didn't. I was one of the people who didn't, not because it was anything against Hartford, but I'm getting paid and working at Yale, and I'm thinking, what is this going to mean for my transplant part of my life? It worked great. I got hired. None of my other partners came, so I was a cardiologist of one. I was the only Hartford healthcare cardiologist at Bacchus for months, many months, like 8 months maybe. So I was on call every day. I saw patients every day. I mean, it was crazy. And then they made me a director. I started hiring people. I came up with this program that I called, we didn't sell it for obvious reasons, but From Birth to Death, which death is not something you want to market. But
not when you're in medicine.
Not when you're in
People
medicine.
want to get better.
So that's why I'm going to explain it. Lots of people who live in Norwich and Lisbon and Ledyard don't have the easy way of hopping in a car and driving to Hartford Hospital or driving to New Haven at Yale and be seen. Especially if they're very sick, they're not feeling well, they're in a car for an hour and a half. Many people don't even have a car, or if they have. So they are not getting care because they can't get the care. Not because the care is not available, but they're not able to access it. So I said, this is ridiculous. And when I was in New Haven, the only way you could get a heart failure transplant evaluation was to come and see me in New Haven. I was like, this is nuts. So I started a program. So we began to hire a lot of general cardiologists, and then every specialty in cardiology I recruited. And we brought them into Norwich. And so we had this big clinic, and I had pediatric cardiologists, we had pediatric heart failure, electrophysiology, all of them. So if you had a problem, you could come to that office. And for those few years that I was there and we did it, it was great. I moved on and some of the specialists went back up, but still several are in place. Electrophysiology is a big piece. So the sort of birth to death was one of the first things I sort of did, and then caught the eye of some of the folks in Hartford, and not to the resume, but I was hired through each of the really successive director level things, specialties, whatever, and then they hired me as a vice president, and that was in 2014.
Okay.
And we can talk about this. We did some great projects, really. I mean, there were 4 of them, very outside of the box, very exciting stuff. And then come August, I retired. And I liked retirement. I'll tell you, Marty, I don't know, you should try it sometime. You're so busy. But when people said, well, what did you do? And I said, I read a lot of books and I watched a lot of Netflix. I mean, if Netflix could put me on salary, I would have made money. And my wife came in one day and she, now keep in mind, she works at home. So here, her husband, who's never home, busy working, is now at home doing nothing, except organizing stuff. And she's like, this is my workplace. If you're going to be here, we got to come up with some rules so you don't drive me crazy. And I was like, absolutely fair. So we came up with this thing. So I'm laying on the couch one day, and she comes in and she goes, I was talking to Kristen Pezzolizzi. And I threw her on there for a reason, because she's responsible for this. And they were saying, hey, this guy, Nick, is not doing a very good job, and he's new. He only took the seat 2 years ago. People are talking, maybe you'd be somebody who would be good to take the seat. Would you be interested? No. I just said, I have no interest in that at all. I went back to watching my TV. 15, 20 minutes later, Marie comes back in and she goes, were you serious when you said no? And I said, I'm dead serious. I have no interest. I am retired. We had a nice party. That means I'm not allowed to work anymore, right? They came, they gave me stuff. I'm not working, right? So nothing said for them. And then the next day she comes in and she said, I never browbeat you, but I'm just going to ask you one more time. Do you want to do this? I think you should. You're smart. You're what this state needs, and you should run. And I got up and I said, I'm going to take a walk. I took a walk. By the time I had gotten home, and we can, if you need to go to a break, we can stop. I can come back. But when I was taking this walk, I kept saying to myself, my kids are all adults. They may or may not stay in California. Am I leaving them? And this is where people go, oh, he's a politician, he's full of baloney. I got nothing to prove here. Again, Netflix is still coming out with some really good shows. Worst comes to worst, I go back and watch TV. But I said, am I leaving this town, this city, this state, in the best shape that I can leave it in? And the answer is no. Then I have to do this. I wake up 6.5 days a week thinking nothing more than winning this campaign. Knocking on doors, speaking to people, talking to them about what's important, and trying to come up with plans together. We are not running, just a campaign here. We are creating a team of people that are they're owners of this. Everybody who wants to come and look at what we're talking about and support what we're doing and support the work and help me run, we are part of one huge team. And it's growing, Marty. The Facebook has just really taken off. I am getting stopped on the street, which I love. Please, if you see me, just stop me and say, hey, how's it going?
You are your best asset.
Yeah, well.
By leaps and bounds. I mean, and the more people you can look in the eye and
right.
say, yeah, I'm Doc Foley, I'm Marty Olsen, and I'm running for
right.
whatever it may be. And look them in the eye, and most people aren't necessarily going to want to talk to you, but
right.
you may get a couple or 3 out of 10.
But just say hi.
And say hi, and they may want to engage you with conversation and see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And I always have encouraged new candidates. When you finish your conversation, you need to find something positive, something you agree on.
Right.
You may disagree on 90% of the stuff, but with that last thing is, whatever it is, I mean, if this guy likes that, you know, whether it's the Yankees or the Red Sox, a political thing, just, you know,
Yeah.
you want them to like you.
Yeah.
It's hard to get votes when they don't like you.
Exactly, and I think though to what you said a few moments ago, there's an authenticity, and so like I'm not tailoring a message, and that's one thing that I did, and we talked about it on Lee's show. You know, when I first started, it was 25 years ago. I was working on Rob Simmons' campaign, and so that's how I met Lee. And so when his campaigning ended, I stayed with my Thursday spot. And I had a great time, and a lot of times it was very fluff pieces back then. We just were goofy, and it was a lot of fun. Rick Costa, who I miss dearly, he does, I think, he does Fridays.
Yep.
But we did a show together, and Rick is just a tremendous guy. We didn't agree on a lot politically, but one of the nicest guys. So I've been on the show, and then I started getting political. And then I got the job as vice president, and I tried to explain to the listeners, and hopefully they understood. You know, if I get on this show, and I'm a vice president at Hartford Hospital, or Yale, or whatever, I can say, look, I'm not here representing Hartford Hospital. My opinions don't reflect Hartford Hospital, but in people's minds they do, and that's understandable. You're sitting there under your name, it says Hartford, you know, VP Hartford Hospital. So the hospital is like, look, do the show. Knock yourself out, but stay away from like questions about policies of the hospital and things like that, because that's not appropriate. And so I did dial it down, and even on the political side of things. And then when I retired, I said, I am not going to be constrained again. And even in politics, I'm not constrained like I am. When I'm working for someone and they're paying me, I have to be appropriate, and if I'm not, then they're going to fire me. And I have every right to not follow their requirements, and they have every right to fire me. And at that point, I didn't want to get fired.
It's interesting. I mean, when you mentioned Simmons, who I also enjoy listening to him, but I mean, he has opened up since he's not in office.
Yeah, and you do, because you're not afraid of the guy behind you or whatever who's.
And you know, and I just I find that fascinating when he gets in there and he's no holds barred.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and he is a smart guy. I mean, he knows, he reads. I mean, he's a voracious reader. I mean, he just, he knows what he's talking about. I think if you're going to make bold statements, you got to have something to back it up. You can't just throw a grenade and stand there. So.
I'll tell you, you mentioned a spot here. I think I'm going to ask Drew if he could put up our first spot here. We do have a couple of PSAs we're going to run tonight. I just want to get them up for viewing and discussion briefly. And we have the annual Kiwanis Club of New London golf tournament, which will be Friday, September 18th at Shinnecossett in Groton. And we need everything. We need golfers, we need sponsors, we need volunteers. And it's a great event. We raise a lot of dough. It goes right back into the community. Nobody's getting paid on this, and it's a lot of fun. As a matter of fact, Lee, who doesn't golf much, participates in this tournament.
Oh, does he really? Okay.
So I'll give him a plug for his golf. One year he won, I think, the long drive contest. He caught one. It's
that
baseball player.
It's that baseball player thing. Yeah, exactly.
And so you can give me a call, or you can contact Ted Nelson, John Russell, or any club member, and we can help you out on that. So we'd like to see you. Also go online to newlondonkiwanis.org or New London Kiwanis on Facebook. Drew, thank you. And I'm going to roll right into the Monday evening cruise nights at Ocean Beach Park. Classic cars, and that's another fun night. Free admission. Night like tonight at Ocean Beach would have been a nice night there. And that's a lot of fun, a nice social night. You get a lot of cars and bikes, and you'll also run into people that you know. So that's another good one. And I think we've got one more here. There we go. I learned something when I came into the studio tonight, and that's that New London has new parking rates and hours. I have not been bitten by this, but Drew has, and he's on fire. So he wanted me to get this out into the public domain. new rates, new hours, and be aware because they are issuing tickets. So we'll keep posting this for a while here and get people on the beam. 'Cause I've not seen anything in the paper about this change. Okay, well, thank you much. That was informative. With Worcester, did you ever do anything with as a physician in Worcester, or did you just?
When I was my medical school is Albany, and so my internship, which is the first year of residency, and my 2 years of residency, and then I was a chief medical resident, so that was 4 years of internal medicine, and then 3 of cardiology specialty. So that whole time I was in Worcester, and I was involved with medical politics, and the Massachusetts State Medical Society. You know, I did some stuff. Never really held huge office. When I came to Connecticut, I was involved first in the local, then regional, then statewide, and then I became president of the medical society.
I mean, Worcester's a big city.
Oh yeah, it's huge, and I learned some stuff there. But I was, newly married, and trying to deal with residency hours. So I didn't really have a whole lot of time to do much, and plus I wasn't going to leave my wife and then, a home alone. And then we had our first baby my chief year, and then that was it. It was right. It's funny because I was talking to someone today again about. I think I'm on record as having the shortest congressional campaign in recorded history. I went after Courtney for his this was many years ago, and I was kind of gung ho, but I had kids that were young, And so I was sitting in literally a fire station somewhere. I can't even remember where I was, and we were having spaghetti dinner, which was like that and the chicken were every night. That's what I was eating, and I'll never forget. I was sitting there and I was thinking, what the heck am I doing here? Like, what am I doing here? What are my priorities? And like being a congressman is really important work, and you need to be focused on that and be in love with that because people are counting on you, right? So I walked out. I said to my campaign manager, I'll pay out the contract, but I've got to stop. I can't do this. It was the greatest sense of relief ever. And I say that because now when I was on the couch reading Netflix, and my kids are all, they're out. They're having, my son's getting, he's engaged. He's getting married in 27. So I've got so much stuff going on, but it's different. I have a lot of free time. I can get up and spend 10 hours a day and not affect anyone's life. Sunday, I try to keep non-campaign stuff. I go to church every Sunday morning. It's a significant part of my faith. And then the rest of the day, I try to be with my family.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I have observed over time. And I've been involved in New London stuff since the mid '80s. Yeah. Is that church or synagogue was important. Being a veteran was important. Yeah. And I don't necessarily sense that is important today.
The religion thing, from what I hear and what I'm seeing, is what are they, Generation Z, but the latest generation are coming back to religion, organized religion, in some of the largest numbers ever. And that is to churches, synagogues, them all.
Yep.
Because my feeling is I don't care what religion you are, even if you choose not to have one, that's your right, and I'll fight for that. But I think for me, I've gotten more significantly tied into faith, and it helps me understand some of the craziness that we see, and it's a grounding mechanism, and reminds you what's important, and that people are more important than stuff. And so, and it really is exciting me now to do a better job as a representative, because I don't think, the representatives in our district and in the 37th, we call them the two Nicks, are so out in the left field. They are so left of left. They get endorsed by, essentially a socialist party, and that bothers me, because I think that you can be liberal, but I don't think, I don't think socialism and communism are necessarily the direction we want this country to go in. I know some people will disagree with me, but yeah, no, so I believe Sunday is that day. Are there going to be opportunities where I'm going to have to do something? Probably, but I try to let the campaign people know that, especially if I'm at Mass or if I'm with my family, like a representative, I'm not the President of the United States. The world's not going to end because I take 2 hours and shut my phone off. They know where I live. I think doing 6 days, 13 hours a day.
I think it's interesting, because the day that I initially called you to come on this program, and I didn't think about it, but it was a Sunday.
Yeah.
And I was talking to somebody, I forget who, and they said, well, you probably didn't get back to you because it was a Sunday.
Yeah. Well,
and I kind of slapped myself, because you had mentioned that just a couple of days before.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where because it's important to me, it's up to me to just let you know that, hey, but so some of the people will know if they put in their number that they're at 911, okay, that's an emergency. But again, as a candidate for office, I don't take myself that seriously, and I think that to take a half a day out of a week is, if that's what causes me to lose, that's going to cause me to lose. I think it makes me better the other 6 days. We'll see.
Well, I like your attitude, and very positive, and that's important as well. I mean, you can't be Dr. No. That's not a good way to go through a campaign. Everything they're doing is wrong.
Right.
And I'm the only one with the answers, and I think that a little humbleness goes a long way as well. I mean,
well, my local competition will say, I've got these ideas that I'm going to write bills, and I'm going to bring them in, and I'm going to submit them, and we're going to pass these bills. And I laugh, because I think, and not to be mean, but there's a level of, like, I might have thought that before a lot of the life experiences that I've had, but some of the jobs that I've had have shown me that you may have what you think is a great idea, but everyone else may not be on the same page, or it may take them a while to get there. You're not going to come in as newbie and go, I'm in charge now. Especially when, if you look at the House and the Senate in the state, they have a supermajority, which in practical terms means they can decide what bills to talk about and what not, when they get presented. Almost now they want to be able to get rid of the sort of filibustering, asking a lot of questions. It's the only thing that allows our party to stop bad legislation, because otherwise they can do whatever they want. So that's why I say to my Democratic friends out there, if you elect me, your world isn't going to change, number one, at least not for the bad. It's going to change for the better. You're introducing a different thought process. When you have a room full of just all liberals or all conservatives, and you ask them to solve problems, they're going to come back with this monolithic, siloed approach to things. But if you sort of say, you've got a 60-40 split, that's healthy, because now people aren't going to get their way simply because they have more people on their side. They have to win on the basis of the quality of their argument. Yeah. Well, and we don't see that now, and that's why the bills, and we can talk about some of those bills, some of the bad bills that were done in this session is because they're in an echo chamber.
Oh, that's for sure. That's for sure. And that moves right up into Washington. It's not just here in Hartford. I concur with that. The balance is so important.
Mm-hmm. You bring up Washington, and it's interesting, because this is one of those things that is going to be, and it is on people's minds. There will be people, I'm sure, who may slam the door in my face when they hear that I'm a Republican, because I hate Trump, they're going to say. Here's my answer right now, and as the answer I'll give you if you want an answer. I don't care what your opinion of Trump is, and you shouldn't care what mine is. I'm here as a state representative candidate because I worry about the fact that many people in your spot can't pay your taxes, and yet they go up every year. I'm sitting here because people are living in a state that's unaffordable, and it's unaffordable because the people who are making the laws for the last 30 years have been all Democrats. I'm sitting here because the reach of government into people's lives. We're going to feed your kids 3 meals a day. We're going to allow 13-year-olds to sign consent for procedures that they should not be signing consent for at 13. We are going to allow all these things to happen. And so I'm sort of saying, look, we've got national leaders who can fight with Trump. Go at it. I have my issues too. But you and I'm your representative. I'm not going to be the one who's going to decide what your Medicaid policy or Medicare policy for the country. That's federal. I'm going to wake up every single day and say, why is it that a woman who stopped me outside of a CVS, who lost her husband less than a year ago, is just concerned that maybe she's not going to be able to stay in the house that she was in? I mean, what do you say to someone like that? Now, we got them, we're going to get them practical help, but the reality is that's what people are talking about around their table. They're not talking about their second or third vacation. They're talking about, can they pay for their kids to go to school? And when you're talking about school, are we demanding the best product for the amount of money we're spending? How can we get the best education possible? How can we allow parents with their kids to decide what's the best venue? We're punishing people who decide they want to teach their kids at home. Instead of supporting them and making it a viable option, we're putting things in place.
Barriers in there, yeah, it's awful.
And this whole DSS thing is an assumption that the people who are at home are somehow deficient. Well, they're not deficient. They've been doing a great job for a long time, and a lot of kids have been homeschooled and done quite well. The other issue about the DSS in the bill that I'm talking about is, here's an agency struggling to survive. Here's an agency whose people are overworked. They are dealing with the hardest cases. We're expecting them to make these unbelievable determinations for safety. We've had several deaths this year. That system is broke. And you don't take a broken system that's broken because they can't handle volume and take every homeschooled kid's parents and have them do an investigation. I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? If I said to, it's a supply and demand. If they had twice as many people, they couldn't do that. My Nick the other day said, well, the bill that he looked at, it could have been stricter, but he'll take it. I'm very concerned about where things are going, that the policies they just take a little at a time, little at a time, little at a time, and you don't realize what's going on. And then all of a sudden you wake up and you go.
Most people are they go out and they work,
yeah,
and they come home and have dinner, and maybe they read the paper, watch a little TV, and repeat.
Yeah.
They don't have time to follow what's happening in Hartford, that in depth.
Yep. But that's why they should be hiring good leaders. And the first question you ask shouldn't be, are you a Democrat or a Republican? It's, tell me about your philosophy. Tell me how you're going to approach bills. I am very much a Republican, and I'm conservative in some key areas, but I'm also realistic to know that the Republican Party doesn't have the right answer all the time. Neither does the Democratic Party. And if I'm going to be successful, and I plan on it, I plan on winning the seat. And when I work in Hartford, I'm going to sit with the Democrats and try to figure out, where do we start at a point of agreement? And maybe bills shouldn't be 200 pages long. Maybe they should be really short. Maybe we start looking at, if we've got this problem, how do we get together a little bit on this? There's going to be points where we're unable to come to agreement, but we're not unreasonable people. They're not unreasonable people.
But one thing I've observed over time in Hartford as well as in D.C., is that the partisanship and the party leadership in both sides. Mm-hmm. They're driving the bus,
yeah. And
if you, just look at some of the primaries that the GOP had recently. Mm-hmm. If you're not on Trump's good side, he puts up an alternative candidate. He wants,
right,
support, period. He's not looking for debate.
Right. Well, and again,
And up in Hartford, I mean, the Looney and the others up there, kind of the same way.
yeah. Well, and again, I can only comment from what I've, I talked to more of the our side, you'd say, Republican legislators, and I think they find that, there has to be unity. But I think that they're in a system where they're given the ability to oppose a party position. You don't want to do it on every bill, or else you maybe should be the other side.
Party.
But so I think there's a balance. But again, for me, there are core principles, and I talk about this a lot on Lee, that I'm not going to change for anybody. I don't care if God Almighty, well, I do. But if the head of the Senate says to me, "You got to do this," and it flies in the face of my values, I'm not going to do it.
And you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And you should. There's a couple of topics that I'd like to just get your take on. You may or may not have given some serious consideration to yet, but one thing that's I think got everybody's attention, and it should be a bipartisan, is our electric bills, and that percentage on the far end that those who pay are paying for those who don't.
Right. And I think that should stop. I think that needs to be phased out and stopped. I think it had its day, but it's not the right way to solve that problem. Connecticut has a power plant that is far from capacity. They have done, I think, a great job from a safety perspective, and they've generated electricity. But the way that Connecticut is solving its energy issue is putting wind turbines down in a beautiful coastline. We can talk about that. I have my issues in terms of the efficacy of that. And long term, when people are talking about the environment and what's healthy for the environment, the environmentalists used to be so anti-nuclear, and they would be supportive of things like solar, which I am a fan of on my house.
I don't think that being supportive of solar or wind is necessarily bad.
Right.
But I look at it more as an amendment to the primary.
Right. Which should be, in my mind, nuclear. And I would create as many sites that can generate cheap electricity. Like, it should be pennies on the dollar. And this is my opinion. And we have the infrastructure here, we have the safety here, we have companies that we could, if we treated them better, and historically, I don't believe the state has necessarily wooed the people at Millstone, but they are not our enemy. And we're all afraid of AI. Everyone's talking about AI. For AI to even work, it's going to require just massive doublings of the amount of energy that this country produces. I mean, it is one of the highest consumers of energy of any system that we could talk about. And so the Chinese know this, which is why they are so far ahead, moving very far ahead with electricity generation. They're doing it very quietly, but yet they're ahead of us. They're not worried about the AI products as much. They're building the infrastructure on power. And once you've got the power, then you can throw anything you want at it. When they were talking about doing what is it, the energy thing of the, oh God, it was going to be down by the baseball fields. Anyway, I'm totally blanking on it. But it was going to require a lot of electricity. It would have affected the grid. So I get back to what capacity is there? How do we build more? And then we try, I mean, New York is not treating us very well in terms of pipeline questions, but natural gas is a very efficient means of energy. I think that oil, while it's, everyone wants to say bad things about oil, we're a country that needs petroleum, and which is why what's going on now, in the Middle East.
I guess have to be pragmatic and realistic about what's going on here.
Right.
Not only around for us itself, but at a global level.
Right.
I mean, we just can't throw in the towel and say, yeah, we're giving up this. And
Yeah.
I don't think that the Russians or the Chinese are worried about this stuff. They're worried about global
Right.
superpower.
Right.
That's
But
their,
you
that's
get
their
there.
goal.
But you get there with energy. You get there with building ships. You get there with AI technology. I mean, the first country that really controls AI controls the world. And so the stakes here are, way more than just, chat boxes and things like that. We're talking about a level of sophistication, and it was interesting because when I was still at Hartford, we had this big symposium, and people were talking about AI, and one of the folks there said, well, doctors never have to worry about AI because, patients won't want to see computers. I'm like, first of all, sir, they're already seeing computers, right? They're already going to CVS's and having nobody there but, checking themselves out or whatever. And they're electing to do it. They could go to other routes and they're doing that. So they are already telling us that. Number two, in medicine, when somebody comes in with complaints and you say, chest pain, shortness of breath, whatever, you create what's called a differential diagnosis. So it's like, what are all the diseases that could cause these symptoms? And you figure it out based on that. Now, AI and even simple computing can take that list and in 10 seconds tell you a list of 150 different conditions that could cause those problems. There's no physician in the world that could do that. I don't care how smart you are. And is that necessary to be able to do? No, but what I'm saying is AI is going to come in and it's going to take over everything that it can, and that's what we're seeing that now. We know that. And I think for safety and excellence for patients, that's fine. But his thing was, they'll need you sitting by the bedside. And I was one of those doctors who sat by the bedside, and I say that's great. That should be the goal. But don't be foolish and sit back and think that you're so invaluable that you can't be replaced. So if that's the case, then be part of the way we roll this out. Be part of the group that understands the capacities, the risks, the benefits, and try to create some guardrails. And they're finally starting to do that. But it's always like with technology, it always gets out of the gate before people are really thinking.
Well, I mean, if you look at, and I grew up in London and still live there. But I mean, when they brought, Millstone in, what benefit did Waterford? I mean, Millstone basically paid the taxes. So if you live in Waterford, your tax was low.
Yeah.
And it allowed Waterford a lot of advantages.
It did.
That others that were a bit too provincial.
Most of which are kind of going away, and a lot of them have already gone away. When we first moved into town, they were going through that process of, I think it was either 5 or 10 years. Every year there'd be a decrease in the payments for Millstone to the generalist, whatever. And so, first year everyone's fat and happy. The police department needs a car, give them 2. And they, that's the way life is, right? But then they really did have to start putting into position some guardrails as to like their fleet management became really very, very well done, and Waterford really adapted to it. And so yeah, I don't see bucket loads of cash coming in from Millstone to Waterford. Certainly nothing like the good old days.
And that may be correct, but in relation to the needs for generation for AI, Waterford, there's a strong block that doesn't support that.
Yeah. Well, AI it doesn't matter. So this is where I would sort of say to you, it doesn't matter whether you support it or not. It's coming, right? It's,
But where's it going to go?
It's going to go wherever it wants to go, unless somebody's there to stop it.
I mean, if Waterford's got a majority of folks that are lining up saying it's dangerous, it's this, it's that,
yeah.
and they don't want it. AI could end up being the new Millstone is where I'm going.
Yeah, I don't think so.
In terms of revenue generation, appraisals and assessments, and tax revenue.
Right. but you see corporations, I think, benefiting from it. Its effects goes down to the level of the kids in the schools. The teaching, from a military perspective, artificial intelligence is the way that wars could actually be stopped. I would look at it and say there are certain things in life that are inevitable, right? You can fight them all you want, and you may push it off, but at some point it's going to happen because the world is going to do that, and we're part of that world. So my thing is, let's have this discussion now. And they're finally starting to do it because I think even the scientists are getting scared about what the implications are here. And so I don't think it's too late, but we're in a position where I would say don't take we can stop this, and how do we make this work best?
Yeah. Now, a handful of years ago, I think it was Dan Stewart's last run for first selectman. The Waterford Republicans had a motto that I loved, which was "Waterford works," and it does.
It does.
Here I am in New London next door. And
Come join us. Come on.
New London is different.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And but I mean, Waterford. I mean, they cut the grass, they educate the kids, they take care of the roads, they plow the snow, and things move. It gets done.
Their priorities were different, and their where they went to finance their stuff was very different than Waterford in terms of new business and stores and the mall and all that stuff. So they made some really good decisions. I think Rob Rule, who's the first selectman, has done an amazing job looking at the summary of activity in the last few years. The amount of stuff that Waterford's done, it's very proud. I
think they're very fortunate too with the electric boat going into the mall.
Oh, huge, huge! I didn't see that one coming.
Well, neither did I. But I mean, it's kind of like when Pfizer separated from New London. I mean, we were fortunate that EB went in there. I mean, that building was not designed for Joe's Pizza House.
Right.
And the mall was not designed for some penny anything. I mean, you need a big time player, and EB and General Dynamics is.
And they seem to be stable for a long time. And I think they'll survive. Changes in leadership. Montville is the other town that I represent, at least part of it, and I'm really getting to know Montville, better and better. And the people are just amazing. This is like, I feel sometimes when I'm walking around Montville that it's Americana. And it's that belief, it was at the Legion Post Sunday, I think it was Sunday, celebrating the holiday in Montville, and they had a band playing. And it was, I felt like it was when I was a kid, where, we would go to, fireworks and stuff like that. So they really, as a town, I think it's a different feel than Waterford, and I like that because it just goes to show that we live in this great country and we live in this great state, but yet we live in communities which are vastly different from each other, and that's the beauty of this, right? And that's when I say the individuality thing in my platform is to say government should keep their hands to themselves. Because if you allow towns and cities to come up with solutions, they're going to come up with better solutions than if it's imposed on them. Why are you going to take housing and decisions in terms of zoning and centralize it in Hartford and not allow zoning boards in towns to have any?
This is
who comes up with this?
This is scary stuff.
Yeah.
We've only got a minute or two left here.
Wow.
And I mean I'm glad you brought the housing up. In my notes. I mean, it concerns me immensely that trying to force feed lower or moderate income housing into communities statewide.
Right.
And the urban centers maybe qualify already, but a lot of folks move to wherever they're living because of the living conditions in those communities.
Right.
and they didn't move there so that they could, bring downtown Hartford there.
Agreed.
Or
Agreed.
Bridgeport. I mean, they want to have a large yard, and they want to have a nice house.
Right. Those things seem to really bother some people, and so or seemingly are unimportant to them. And I always sort of say, something may be important to you, and I don't necessarily get it. So it's up to me to either do one of two things. One is say, I don't care what he thinks, or try to understand where it is that you're coming from. And but you don't have that dialogue when the person making the decision is sitting in an office desk in Hartford, and they haven't even been to that neighborhood. They have no clue what the people want or don't want. Maybe they do want some type of housing developments there, but maybe they'd want to be part of the solution. So, but again, when you're in a supermajority, you get to do stuff. And we're not going to get out of that unless we hire Republicans to take over, especially with representatives that are so far left. I mean, the Democrats should not fear losing Gauthier because he is ultra left. And I don't think that reflects Waterford. Waterford may not agree, or they may disagree on some things with me, but I sense, and when I hear them talk to me, when I've had so many one-to-ones and small table discussions, and I just try to listen, although sometimes I talk too much. But I try to listen to them because it's how do I know what they want if I'm not listening?
Oh, you got to listen.
Yeah.
Very important.
I'll do that the next time I come. I'll do a better job.
I am looking forward to your next visit
Yeah.
here to City Focus. It's been a terrific conversation. Drew will have this program repeated significantly over the next week. It's also probably be up tonight or tomorrow on YouTube.
Yeah. Wow.
So if you've got folks that you'd like to...
Yeah. You know those loudspeakers for the emergencies? I'm going to have them actually, the whole show played. I'm kidding.
And it was also live streamed. So we have the opportunity to get out beyond the local cable system is there.
That's
and it's
awesome.
just a matter of taking advantage of it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This is a lot of fun.
This has been terrific. I enjoy having guests that I don't have to
Yeah, pulling me to talk is not a hard thing. It's the data center. This just came into my head. Remember that big data center that they were going to do with rows and rows of computers, and that's what. But that takes a ton of energy. I think that's dead now, or I don't think it passed, but I'm not sure.
I think you're right on that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm concerned that
it'll come back.
We don't want not just Waterford, but the region to be short-sighted on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think we've actually exhausted our time, but I want to thank the good doc for coming on. And next time you talk to Lee,
tomorrow,
let him know that you were visiting with Marty, and we had a nice chat.
Awesome.
And we'll see what we can do. But
thank you again.
Although I'm not in your district, you're the candidate of my choice.
Well, thank you very much. You guys have got John Russell, I think.
Yep,
who's
I've known John a long time.
Good guy. So I think I'm trying to get all the reps, Ann Santoro, 37, myself, John Russell. There's a young woman, and
over in Groton. I met her at our town committee.
I've heard nothing but amazing stuff about her. So I'd like to get us together to kind of, when we talk about the red wave, but just to make the coastline red. And I think we can do it.
Do we have a candidate for the 20th District Senate?
Yes, and I can't, it was last night. And he was nominated and he won. And I think he's. I'll have to get you the name because it's brand new since last night, and I'm bad with names. But yeah, we do have a rep that won the convention, a senator.
Okay, I know Lee's had his eye on that for a long time. But
yeah.
There seems to be friction that doesn't allow.
Timing is everything, so who knows? But it's this is great. This is great that we have somebody.
Very good. Well, folks, we'll see you again next week on City Focus, and thanks for watching. Good night.